What is up, fellow gamer gang? It is your boy back at it again, and this time we're going to be ranking various countries' coastlines. Let's not waste any hecking time. So, we're going to be basing the scores and the judgment on three criteria: proportion, or how big the coastline is in comparison with the country's total size; location, which is if the the coastline is in a decent or uninfluenced area; and shape, which is, if the coastline is spread out evenly and is easy to work with, the usual. This is a dadgum disclaimer. This video is entirely my opinion. It's okay if you don't agree with it. I'm not studying shipping or water travel. I go by purely what's on a map. Alright, now that we have that legal disclaimer out of the way, let's start. Brazil is up first. Located on the eastern half of South America, it's full of jungle and has a decent amount of coast. Its main port is here, the populous megacity of Sao Paulo, with a population of around 12 million. However, Brazil's capital is here, the city of Brasilia, population around 2.5 million. Its whole coastline is pretty long, at 4,660 miles, and for a huge country like this, with 3.3 million miles in land area, the coastline length is a fitting size. In case you didn't know, Brazil is a gigantic country, like it's 2/3 the size of the US. Plus, they have the Amazon River to connect and travel with the inland, so tack that on, I guess. The proportion is good, and so is the shape, if I'm being honest. Location-wise, it's a bit trickier. Brazil is isolated from many of the large or more well-known ports, but it still trades oodles of things with other countries, whether it goes north with the US, east with China, or north to whatever nonsense comes out of Europe. So overall, I would say yes on location. Scorecard says I would say 9.5 out of 10. Well, that's sort of my top score here. Next up we have South Africa, which is located in South Africa. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. But anyway, the main port is here, known as Durban, with a population sitting at around 3.7 million. One of their three capitals, but also the main one here, is Cape Town, with around 4.3 million people. So, in case you didn't know, thought I'd throw that one up there. The coastline, I think, is a perfect length at 1,700 miles, sporting up the 471,000 miles of land area that all of South Africa has. Proportion is great, and shape is great. Why do I think it's such a good length? Well, let's pull up the old diagnostics here. If you take a look, you'll see that the coastline perfectly supplies the land area without missing any latitude or longitude for an even spread. Mwah! It's a good meatball. So, if I'm being honest, location is good too, I guess, since it has both Atlantic and Indian Ocean access, as well as Pacific if they go right, of course, hence the off-label. I don't know who they trade with in the Atlantic, but I'm pretty sure it's probably useful. The Indian Ocean access is good, so they can trade with India, who's in the far northeast. It's grossly out of scale, of course. Scorecard says 8.9 out of 10 because they have. Now, the UAE. So, where are we going to start? Let's take a look. The UAE is located on the Arabian Peninsula and is where things get a little more difficult. This part in the circle is owned by Oman, a country to their south. Yes, it's a piece of their country detached from the mainland, sort of like Alaska to the US. But more on that in a bit. The main port of the UAE is right here. It's called Jebel Ali. I think I'm saying that right, with a population around 31,000. Their capital is right next door at Abu Dhabi, with a population at around 1.5 million people. Their coastline is a bit smaller at 1,300 miles, but it's fitting since, well, actually, the UAE is a smaller country, with 32,000 square miles. I think the proportion is a-okay, and so too is the shape. In fact, the shape of the UAE is one of my all-time favorites for any country. Location is harder. In pink is the Persian Gulf. The UAE can freely go north by Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, but they can also go east. That little stretch of water where the arrow bends is called the Strait of Hormuz and is one of the most strategic locations in the world. Tons of cargo ships and fishing vessels go through here all the time, and so does a vast quantity of oil. They can also go southeast through that little panhandle they have that bisects Oman's head off. Only the green and blue routes lead to open ocean, but the green is worse for travel for reasons I'll get into soon. See this green strip? That part of the strait is controlled by Iran, while these two orange strips are controlled by Oman. I took the liberty of whipping up a quick chart here to help you remember. The UAE's access to open ocean is entirely reliant on Iran and Oman letting them through. Without these two giving the UAE the all-clear, the UAE is stuck with whatever coastal waters they have nearby. Thankfully, they control a truly nutty amount of oil, so I think we're good for right now, but that location thing is gonna hurt their score a bit, so 7.9 out of 10. Italy is up next, and remember this map, since you'll need to remember the Mediterranean. Their main port is in the south, called Gioia Tauro, population 20,000. I think you know what their capital is. Rome, population 3 million. Their coastline most definitely covers the country, with 4,660 miles spanning an area of 115,000 square miles. The proportion is great, dare I say a bit much, and also the shape is great too. The location, not so much. See, it looks great on a map like this, but when it comes to defense and trade, not really. You gotta remember that Italy has land all around it, which all of it could actually block them if need be, whether it be France in the northwest, Greece in the southeast, Croatia in the northeast, you name it. It doesn't matter if these countries are stronger than Italy naval-wise, but what matters is that they could blockade Italy just as easy as Italy could blockade them. Before Italy reacts, France could exert naval control over this zone, Croatia over this zone, and Greece over this zone. But that's just a possibility. You also must remember that Italy has the same problem as the UAE. Their access to a clear, open ocean is dependent on their neighbors, who are friendly at first, but if they become unfriendly, then it looks like Italy is out of ocean access. These neighbors are the ones who are close to Italy and have access to the Atlantic Ocean, that being Spain, Portugal, France, or even Morocco. The map is tilted a bit, but Spain and Morocco control the narrow Strait of Gibraltar, the only natural way in and out of the Mediterranean Sea and Atlantic Ocean. Sure, Italy has a straight shot now, but what if one of them decides to block them? Now Italy can't go that way. The only other option that I can think of is the Suez Canal, going through Egypt that connects to the Red Sea and then the Indian Ocean. But what if that gets blocked? Italy's trapped. Overall, I love Italy, but the coastline is just unlucky. 8.2 out of 10. It might have worked for the Romans and Phoenicians, but we've evolved since then. There's more to worry about now. Actually, you know what? No, scratch that. 7.8. Iraq is one of those ones in the Middle East with a good location but bad everything else. They have hella sand and not much coast, which could have been like, well, I think that's about time to get some ocean access. Their main port is Basra, population 1.3 million. Their capital surprisingly isn't seaside but rather up north in the hot desert, Baghdad, population 8.1 million. Their coastline is very tiny at only 36 miles in length, compared to 170,000 square miles of land to support. Proportion? Wrong. The shape is also questionable because it's on the bank of a river fed by the ocean, so it's nothing I'd write home about, and the location has both pros and cons that kinda cancel each other out. Like on one hand, the ancient Tigris and Euphrates rivers feed through the country and give it life, here and here respectively. They were used for everything that water was used for, plus trade with things like oil. Yummy oil gives Iraq a food and good location. I mean, food grows along the rivers, but But oil and food give Iraq a good location, but not just for water. 1.4 out of 10, which, I mean, oil is kind of the only thing holding this place up, but... Now, Egypt. Everyone's heard of them. Egypt is located in far northeast Africa with a spillover territory in Asia, being the triangle-shaped desert-filled Sinai Peninsula, technically making Egypt transcontinental, like Turkey. Their main port along the Mediterranean is Alexandria, population 5.2 million. Their capital is unsurprisingly Cairo, population 9.5 to 10 million. Oh, Egypt's northern coast is stuck along the Mediterranean too. What, you hate Italy or something? No, let me explain. Egypt's other coastline is their eastern coast, boosting their total coastal length to 2,000 miles, supporting 390,000 miles of total area. Their eastern coast is along the Red Sea, which gives them access to the Indian Ocean as well. The fertile Nile River slices its winding way through the country, which is why civilizations were able to really develop in ancient times. Proportion check, shape check. Egypt also gets bonus points because of their plentiful exports like oil, citrus, and cotton, all thanks to our friend the Nile. Look at this rundown, it's beautiful. Location, double check. Oh yeah, you also know what the Nile was able to develop? The entirety of ancient Egypt? Yeah, I know, pretty epic. 9.2 out of 10, maybe 9.3. But who is the winner? Who has the best coastline of all? Drumroll, please. Argentina and India. It's a tie. Discuss. Argentina's main port is the same as their capital, which is here, which of course is Buenos Aires, population 3 million. India's main port is Mumbai, population 3 million. Their capital is New Delhi, population 22 million. Now, on to the other stuff. I firmly believe that these are the golden ratios of coastline from land to sea. So, why is this? Let's take a look. First of all, Argentina has flat land, which makes it perfect to graze animals for slaughtering. Not only that, but because of its actually pretty large size, it has hot weather in the north and cold weather in the south, meaning that it has a variety of different things that can grow and graze there. India has the same problem. Well, not really a problem, it's more of a benefit, really. India is pretty hot in general, but it also has very fertile land around the Indus River. So, you know, it's pretty cool, which is why it's home to one of the oldest civilizations in the world. Not only that, but they're also both very large countries and have lots of coastline to feed their booming population. So, yum yum. See you next time. By the way, I want to finish this video off by saying this. I really love this concept, so I might do a part 2 again in the future, judging more countries. So if you want me to judge your country's coastline, leave it in the comments. Tell me what it is, and I'll put it in the next video. I will criticize your homeland. Stay tuned, I have a new Obscure Corners podcast coming. Apparently I can't speak.